Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Tea with Doug G. If you don't know me, my name is Doug Gooden, and y'all, the show that for some reason I could not get scheduled right is finally here. I am so excited to have my amazing friend, Mr. Jared Gilstrap, with me tonight. Jared, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so happy that we finally got the schedule down because the previous times it was 100% my fault. But Jared, why don't you take a second and tell the folks who you are, what you do, all that jazz, sir. The floor is yours.
Sweet. Yeah. So I have known Mr. Doug for 4 years now. We went through college all together. I'm a senior majoring in journalism at the University of Georgia. So let's see. From right here in Athens, I grew up, born and raised here. I'm a band kid, so I did band all throughout middle school and high school, did Redcoats in college, really enjoyed that. Let's see, I did SendMeNow, so I'm really involved in BCM alongside Doug, and so I've done SendMeNow every summer, hoping to graduate this May. I'm getting married this year. I've got engaged recently.
Yeah, you are.
Really exciting. Oh, yeah. So that's really exciting. Yeah, in short, that's me.
Well, awesome. Yeah, Jared, just to give everyone some context. So I have scheduled Jared for this show, I believe twice or three times.
I think it's three.
I think it's three too. And every single time I forget that I have you scheduled. I'm usually really good about putting people in my calendar. And the last time I had scheduled you, I did put you in my calendar and I just didn't look at my calendar. But yeah, I've been messing up our time to do this, but it's finally here. Jared, you ready to get into some questions, man?
I'm so down.
All right, sweet. Well, let's get into it. First question right off the bat from our good friend, Mr. Ben Tankersley. He wants to know, Jared, what's your favorite superhero movie?
And I'll be judged for this one. Definitely something Marvel. Definitely Infinity War. Just
all right.
There's no loose ends. Like, it's the perfect setup. It's not trying to do everything at once. You got all the characters coming together. You got the good blitz of action, but also like narrative depth. So it's not all just people punching each other.
Yeah.
And man, that was I was so hyped when I saw that in the theater. So that's got to be just a good memory, good movie.
Yeah.
I just love it.
I got you, man. I got you. I definitely think it's the superior movie to Endgame, to that back-to-back double feature. But yeah, all right, nice way to get us started off. Now, Jared, for this next question, I'll be honest, I wrote this question because Jared, this past year, a lot of our, I would say that over the past year, we've gotten a lot closer as friends.
Yeah.
That's not to say that we weren't close friends before, but like this past year, like we stepped it up. We stepped it up a notch. And the most defining characteristic of that growth has been our famous breakfasts that we've had in my car. So Jared, I want to know, what makes breakfast the best meal to have a deep, insightful conversation? What sets breakfast apart from lunch and dinner and maybe dessert and coffee if you're that kind of person? But yeah, why breakfast?
Aside from the fact that I share it with you, I would say it's my favorite meal of the day. Like, the food, it just goes big. You know, like, there's reserved dinners, there's fancy lunches, but like breakfast just slaps. Like, it's just direct. Like, you got your eggs, you got your bacon, there it is. Like, there, you know what to expect. There's still some variants, but like, you know what to expect. And like, to be a total band geek here, like, you know, like when you start off your day, it's called like the step off. Like, that's the most important step to hit if you're doing like a little set in the marching band. I always thought of that the same way. Like, breakfast, you just step off. That's the first step of your day, is you're eating breakfast. It's usually the first thing you get to enjoy. And so if you get to like experience the first pleasant thing of your day with someone else, it's just better. Just better.
Well said, sir.
Yeah.
Well said, indeed. Now, Jared, sticking on this topic of breakfast and sticking on the topic of questions that I wrote,
Oh, yes.
which I don't usually write that many of the questions that get submitted that we do, but recently you and I have kind of shifted from the classic Baptist mode of just Chick-fil-A for breakfast, and we've moved much more to a Mickey D. I think we've made that transition. And I want to know, why is it that McDonald's, of all places, is such a good conversational food?
I love that question. Oh man,
dude, I felt getting this question.
Oh,
writing this question, I was just like,
I feel like you're the one who has taught me the answer to this question of why McDonald's is such a great conversation food. I think everybody relates to it. It's the baseline. Like, I don't care who you are. If you live in this general area, you've had McDonald's breakfast at some point. And so I feel like I could talk with anybody over McDonald's breakfast and be able to start something, like start a conversation, because you just have so much to relate to. It never, it doesn't always lift you up, but it never lets you down, you know?
Yeah. Well said. If I could just have two Jared Gilstrap phrases on T-shirts, one would be breakfast slaps, and the other one would be, McDonald's, it doesn't lift you up, it doesn't tear you down. Yeah, well, great. All right, so Jared, switching mainly to questions that I didn't write. Maggie Reese Hines wanted to ask, what has been your favorite, most memorable Redcoat experience? And for the people who may be watching this now or maybe watching it in the future, what are Redcoats for people who are not from Georgia or are not Georgia natives?
Yes. So Redcoats is not the British militia of the 17 and 1800s. It is a marching band of a Southern university. Yeah, so University of Georgia has a huge marching band. It's like 430 something people. It's one of the biggest. I know it's top 5. I don't know how big it is, but it's one of the biggest marching bands in the nation. And like it's considered like a big deal. Like, I'm not like I'm not metaphorically tooting our own horn, even though we're a marching band, but it's a big deal.
They are legit. Like, they are excellent. Yeah,
it's really cool. One of the loudest things I've ever heard. But yeah, so we do halftime shows. We play in the stands, basically like, a marching band for University of Georgia. It's really fun.
Yeah. And that next part of it, what would you say has been your favorite or most memorable experience with the Redcoats?
That is a loaded question.
We got time. We got time, man.
It's hard to like scrunch it down to one specific, like, oh, this moment is like the peak. I think that word experience there. The most memorable experience that Redcoats brought me was definitely being completely immersed in a group of people that are way different from me. Aside from like musically, it was probably one of the most wonderful things I've ever experienced, being a part of a sound so powerful, but also so just musical. But yeah, like I was raised in a very environment where I was surrounded by the same type of people. And so Redcoats, there we had people of different beliefs, different practices, different instruments for that matter. And I got to literally spend all of my weeks with them. Like every Saturday we were there for like 12 hours. The bus rides to and from places, and just, it was one thing to be given like a really powerful musical experience and being able to be a part of that. But it was another thing entirely. And I think it was my favorite thing, that I got to experience all these things alongside people that I would never have met otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. And thank you, Maggie, for that question. All right. So keeping on this topic of music and how it's played a part in your life, especially in the last 4 years, looking forward, how do you see music playing a role in your life as you progress out of college and into, quote unquote, the adult part of your life?
Yeah. Until I find another, 430 person band for adults, So I played trumpet for like 9 years now, and I really love it. Like I've poured so many hours into it. I don't want to just drop it. So I don't want to keep playing it in some capacity. Depending on where I move, I might try to find a local ensemble I could play in, or like a jazz band somewhere. I love jazz. And really, I think it's like a talent the Lord has given me to use for his glory somehow. I don't know how, but I really enjoy playing it just even on my own time. Like this spring semester, I haven't been in a band and I've just been practicing on my own. I really love that. So at the very least, I'll just keep doing that and see what comes up. I might play at a church somewhere. But as far as music as a whole, though, that has been like listening to music, finding new songs, listening to soundtracks. Like that has been a part of my life since I knew what music was. I know. I don't know where I'll go, but I know music will go with me for sure.
I love that. And this has given me a really good jumping off point to talk about one thing that probably the biggest reason that you and I both know each other, because as you said in your opening, we both met through the BCM, through Baptist Collegiate Ministries. And Jared, I think it goes without saying that you are someone who is constantly and is always doing what the church says is living on mission. You have such a heart for people and such a drive to share the gospel and everything that entails. So I do want to know what does it look like for you, and how do you, Jared Gilstrap, live on mission?
That's a shot. Like that's such a broad phrase, like living on mission.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of tempted to like list off things to do, but that's really not it. Like it's not missions. Like living in a way that shows your faith isn't like an action plan or something that I do or something that we do. It's a life. Like you said it, living on mission. How do you live on mission? You live your life in light of what God has said. And God has said that his word saves, and we are to show that to people who don't know that in whatever ways we can. And that's what I try to do. I take that and run with it. It's not like okay, I need to check this box or fill out this form, or like I just live in a way. Like there's a quote that I like to go by. The former president of the seminary in New Orleans said it, but it's, if Jesus is on your heart, he will come out of your mouth. If Jesus is on your mind, he's going to come out of your mouth. And so that's what I try to abide by, is I try to fill myself so much with my own personal walk with God, reading his word. Like if I really am abiding in it, like it's telling me to, that's what I live for. That's what sustains me. That's why I get up in the morning. And so if I keep that in my head long enough, it's going to express itself, be it through maybe kindness to others, or an intentional conversation with somebody, or just a friendship. A lot of people emphasize, I call it shotgun evangelism. Like you walk up to someone random and you like, here's the gospel, But I've, in GenSend, like the SendMeNow, it's like summer mission trips I've been on, it's helped me a ton in this, but it's really about, it's a long-term relational thing. I'm called to love people, not to license them into what I believe. And so I feel like letting God take over my life so much that other people see it and ask is key, but also using that as leverage to speak that into other people in ways that wouldn't harm them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Just filling my life with that intentionality, like every single thing that I do is intentional. Yeah. To try to portray that. Like the more sweetly I experience God, the more I'm going to show him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that, Jared. And you brought up what a lot of people, if they've known you throughout college, what has become such a big part about you and your testimony, and like the joy that you have, at least that's what it looks like from the outside, is your time with GenSend and doing SendMeNow summer missions, specifically your trip to New Orleans. And Jared, I fully know what I'm getting myself into when I ask you. But Jared, why don't you tell the folks who are watching, who maybe don't know, tell us about specifically what your heart is for New Orleans, because I know that that's been a huge force for you.
Yeah. So, oh man. So I know you've heard the 3-hour version of what I'm about to say, but I'll spare the other people that.
For those watching, it's a great 3-hour version. You get two meals out of it. It's high quality.
That's true. I don't know if one of them was a breakfast or not, but I enjoyed it either way. But yeah, that place, it means so much to me because that was the first time I'd ever been on a mission trip that was more than just, you come there for a week, you give them sandwiches to feel better about yourself, and you go kind of thing. Like, this is a very deep, long-term, you're working with people who are already there, and it will be, their work is going to continue after I leave. And I came there fully knowing that. It was scary. I grew up in a really southern, small town, very sheltered. And so, like, going to a place like New Orleans, where, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just a crazy place for 6 weeks away from home, hours away from home. It was a really big leap for me. And I was really scared. Like, it wasn't an easy thing. I didn't like march to New Orleans with my Christian banner over my head with a plan in my head. It was a leap of faith, to put it lightly. And when people ask me about it, yeah, like, the food's great. I love that city. The history is amazing. The location is beautiful. Heck yeah, go enjoy that stuff. But that's where I saw God. That's where I saw God the deepest, I think, in my life. That's where I think I saw so many things about him for the first time. And that is only true because I saw so many layers of brokenness for the first time. Like I said, I was very sheltered. And so every time that I saw something that's really hard, I would kind of turn away, and it's easy to get away. But in New Orleans, when I came there with the mindset of kind of like living on mission, I mean, we were coached to do that over and over and over again in GenSend. Everything you do is with the intention of making Jesus known to people, like he was made known to me. And so going with that perspective, it was completely different. I was praying for the city. I wasn't just going there to experience something. I was going there to do something, to live a certain type of way. And over and over again, my little sheltered little eyes were shown just new layers of sin that I'd never seen before. The depth of the pain when, like, there's abuse in the family. We worked with a lot of foster care organizations. We saw that. We saw, of course, material poverty, but how spiritually and emotionally that affects people. Like, the depth, over and over again, I just kept seeing the depth of sin. It's not something that you could really put on a page, or I could even say with words. It's something you just have to see. And over again, I would get into conversations with people about God or Jesus, and we start talking, and they'd always ask me, why did God let XYZ happen to me? Usually involving the Hurricane Katrina. It's a beautiful city, but it's also a city that's very acclimated to pain. To me, before Hurricane Katrina was just a headline. But when I got there and I saw the water stains on the building, just the tears in people's eyes when you would talk about it with them, I realized it was real. Seeing that kind of pain made me question in my own heart, why the heck did this happen to these people? Like, I deserve nothing, and the Lord has given me so much in this life that I cherish. Why have these people who deserve no more or no less, and like we're equal, why have these people received less on this earth than me? And that wrecked me, basically. And I had to really basically just be broken down for other people, feel what they feel, not just what I feel about them, but feel with them. And I kind of got to that point where I remember there's one time I was in a staircase alone, and I was just crying to God, like, why have you let all these things happen to these people? And why did you save me when I haven't even suffered half as much as some of the people I've met? And it was remarkable. Like, I went to church the next day. I didn't want to sing. I didn't want to do the whole church. I was just like, my faith is broken. I don't know what to do. And I went back to that moment in 6th grade when I first became a Christian. And all I knew was that was real. And if that was real, I kind of built my way up from there. All I know is that Jesus rose from the dead. That's it. And then I slowly built back from there. And from that, like the book of Job helped me a ton too. Job, the whole throughout the book, he was asking, why am I suffering so much? Why is God doing this to me? I'm a righteous person. In the end, God just said, where were you when I made everything? Who are you to ask that question? You need to trust me. That's hard. But so I guess in summation, like the darkness of sin just made the light of the gospel more precious to me. And when I saw that, I was like, the only reason I'm put on this earth is to glorify God. Heck yeah. Like that, once that kind of clicked in my head, I know it kind of was a rocky explanation, but once that clicked in my head, that darkness makes light shine brighter. Truth does not change with context, but our observation of it does, like our perspective does. And when I saw that, I was like, it clicked. And I was just like, I know I'm on this planet. I need to make that light known to people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love that. I've told you before, you're the real deal, Jared. You are without a doubt the real deal. But yeah, I always love hearing about your heart for New Orleans, for people in general, but I know that was a turning point for you in your life. But yeah, man, I love that. Speaking of turning points in your life, Jared, my friend, you managed to do something very recently. I believe, what was it? About 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? 2? 3. My man Jared, for those of you who were not aware of this, he was able to propose to his girlfriend Brie, and they are now engaged happily. Also, Brie accepted my friend request, so that was cool. But yeah, so I want to take just a second to talk to you about that, man, because you're the first person I've had on the show who's engaged. I've had married couples on before, everything like that. I've never had someone who's engaged. So Jared, I've got a lot of engagement questions to ask you that I've been saving up. So first things first, you got engaged in 2021, coming out of hopefully once in a lifetime pandemic. And I gotta know, man, what is the most difficult part about dating and eventually proposing to someone during a pandemic?
Ooh, I love that question. It's unique of an answer from me because the first year and a half of our relationship was long distance. She went to Georgia Southwestern, which is 3 hours away in Americus. And that's where you're from. Yeah, that's where you're from. And then I was in Athens, obviously. So we only got to see each other, around once a month for the first year and a half of our relationship, maybe even less than that. And so I think we were conditioned kind of to go into the pandemic. But overall, if I could pick out one thing that's the most difficult, is that there were times, especially when I didn't get to see her for the longest times, where, she would, for example, she had the coronavirus in May. She got sick. And I just really wanted to take care of her. I wanted to make her feel better. I wanted to bring her food or, just simple stuff like that. I wanted to take care of her. I wanted to protect her, and I wanted to just love her well, like from close by instead of from a screen. And I couldn't. And because we were on lockdown, I was 3 hours away and everything. And I just had to sit there, and for the weeks that she had it and just be like, I am not like, it was times like that in long distance in general, not just the pandemic, but long distance in general, where God just showed me flat out, like, Jared, you can't jump through that screen and help her. Like, I am her, like, the Lord is her protector, not me. And I know I read the Bible all the time, like, the man's supposed to be the leader and the provider, all that stuff. But in reality, that's just God that would just be God through me doing those things. Like, I'm not her protector. I'm not her provider. That's the Lord. And if he sometimes pleases himself to do that through me. And I love that. Like that's the biggest lesson I think long distance has taught me, is that even if I get to love her from, in the same house and we get married, that will be the Lord providing and protecting her through the way I do that. And like, just to keep in mind as I am stepping into like fiance, like I'm her fiancé and I'm getting married, like to her, the Lord is her true protector. He is her true leader. And I am to point her to him with everything that I do, with how I lead her, how I protect her, all those things. Him. I point her all to him because he's the one doing it in the first place. And remembering that, like, God doesn't need me. He's letting me do this. Like, he doesn't need me to be the knight in shining armor. I can't even get myself out together half the time. You know, it's all him. And yeah, being forced to realize that through a pandemic and long distance was so. I'm so glad. I'm so thankful for that.
Well, I'm telling you, man, you're wise beyond your years does not begin to describe it. I love this. So talking about your engagement to Brie, another big question I've got for you is what would you say was the driving force behind that decision to finally propose? Because I know you told me at one point, like our conversations this year went from I'm thinking about proposing, I'm planning on proposing, I got a ring, I'm proposing, I can't propose because we can't get together at this time. I proposed. Like for me, just sitting back here, it was great. It was awesome to watch.
Yeah. So I would not have done it any other way. I loved how we got engaged. So basically, there was two things. The week before I got engaged to Brie. So going back to, like, you know, the whole purpose of why I'm on the planet kind of thing, the purpose of my life. I determined, you know, before me and Brie became a thing, like, I'm on this planet to make much of the God who saved me. I want other people to experience him like me. So I want to show that as much as possible. And recently, I've been talking to a lot of older men in my life who have families. I went to a really impactful funeral, and just seeing how powerful the family is. You know, like, a lot of brokenness in this world can be traced to just broken families, but also a lot of the good things in this world, you know, just the family is such a pillar of any society. Nonetheless, and from a Christian context, I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. Like, that is the most God glorifying thing I could do in my life. Not just having a family, but marrying that woman, like starting a family with her, that thrills me. Like, holy cow. And so once I kind of, so I was kind of like, oh gosh, you know, because getting engaged is scary, you know, like, I can't do that on my own. That's terrifying. But seeing how wonderful that life is going to be, seeing how wonderful that life specifically with her would be, I was like, oh gosh, I just have to do this. And then, but I was still just, what tipped the scale really, as I kept saying to myself, I can't do, you know, because anxiety has been a big sin struggle of mine this past year. But so I kept saying to myself, as I would think about this before, I was like, I can't do it on my own. I can't do it. I can't do it on my own. You know, this is something I'm not strong enough to do. I can't commit my life to someone like this. And so, like, it was kind of like a fearful, you know, timid thing. But as I read the Bible more, as I prayed about it more, as I thought about, like, my life leading up to this point, I was like, wait a second. Course I'm not supposed to be able to do it on my own. Like, the Bible literally tells me to lean not on my own understanding. Like, of course I'm not supposed to. Like, this is all about showing who Christ is, and if I'm still in the way, he's not gonna, like, you know what I'm saying. I have to step off the stage in order for him to show who he is through my life. And I don't want to look back at my life and say, oh yeah, that was a great plan, Jared. Oh, good job. You know, that was a great. I want to look back on my life and just say thank you to God, you know. And I've already done that through every minute I've spent with Brie, but with getting engaged, especially, that I can't kind of paradigm became almost a triumphant thing. Like, heck yeah, I can't do this on my own. Like, that's beautiful. There's only one explanation for why I'm with Brie. There's only one explanation for that, and it's not me. And that's awesome. So once I realized that, I was like, I'm doing it. Yeah,
dude, I love it. I love it so much, man. All right, I have one more question that's very, very Brie focused. But truth be that there's pressure on you to answer this. And I don't usually tell guests, like, you know, there's pressure on this. But Jared, and this is one of my favorite things to ask anyone who's in a relationship. I gotta know, man, what is your favorite thing about your fiance? What's your favorite thing about Brie? If you had to narrow it down to one, I know it's not fair. We don't necessarily ask the softball questions here on Tea with Doug G, or we do at the beginning and then we just go right down into the deep stuff.
Ooh, so, oh gosh, okay. I'll tell you the first thing I noticed about her, which is it's a highlight. I don't know, like the first thing I noticed about Brie from like the day we met, even just from the context of like new friends, not even romantic, is her like joy, not just happiness or bubbliness, but like joy. You know, like when Philippians says like rejoice in the Lord always. It doesn't say like, oh, be happy all the time, be bubbly all the time. Like, no, like rejoice in the Lord. That phrase is really important. And I've saw Brie has that written all over her, even just through talking with her. Like, we met at a SendMeNow conference, training for GenSend. Actually, we went to different cities, but we were in a small group together, and I could just tell, like the way that she was talking about the city she was going to, the way she told me about New Orleans, and as we just got to know each other, like her joy was in the Lord. It wasn't in anything that could be taken away from her. And like seeing that, I was like, whoa. Like, because I'm a really emotional guy and I wear it on my sleeve a lot. But to see her so rooted in something that wasn't in herself, it was clearly of God. I was like, that's neat. You know, like I've always admired that in her. So that's my favorite that's the first thing I always notice about her deeply. I don't know if I have a favorite. All of her is my favorite. And then my favorite thing about her, in like a funny sense, is her hair. I love her hair because I can just pick her out of a crowd like that when I see it. It just makes me happy. So a deep and a shallow answer.
It's okay. I love it. I love it. I love the same. All right. Well, now, Jared, so we're starting to wrap up this conversation. And one question that I have for you that I'm really happy I got sent. I don't know who sent it, but I'm really happy that it was sent because I've been asking you to do this. Jared Gilstrap, if you ever write a book, what is it going to be about? Yeah, for context for those listening, I've been asking this man for the last, 3 or 4 months, please write a book.
Man, I don't know, because I've never written any like long form thing. You know, journalism school has me writing a ton of stuff, but I would say if it was like I'm locked in a room, all I have to do is write a book to escape or whatever, it would either be like a memoir of sorts of my life just to help me remember, because I like remembering stuff that happens in my life because all the stuff it reminds me of. So either a memoir of like all that I've seen happen in my life, or maybe like a compilation of the stories of the people that I'm close to, you know, like the life stories of my family.
Yeah.
Or it would be like, or it would be like a topical, like, hey, here's a topic. Maybe it would be like, you know, dating or creation or like some kind of topic that I would focus on. So
yeah, I got you, man. I got you. Write a book. Please write a book. I'll be the first one to buy a copy. I'll even pre-order it. Mm-hmm. But yeah. All right. Now, Jared, I only have two questions, and as someone who's about to graduate college, this is something I ask everyone who is nearing graduation. First question is, Jared, as you look back on your 4 years at college, what is the one thing that you would say to your freshman self if you could go back in time?
I'm tempted to tell him a book, but speaking of writing books, but I would tell him, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. Like, in all your ways, acknowledge him. He's going to make your path straight. You don't lean on your own understanding. You don't have to have everything figured out. All you have to do is obey. That's it. All you have to do is obey where you're at this day. Let tomorrow worry about itself. Obey where you're at and praise God for the battles that he is going to win in your life these next few years.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love that. And then last question for you, Jared. We've gotten to the end of this conversation. And I just want to know, man, you know, how, in what ways do you feel you've grown since you started college?
Oh man. I'm not the same person, definitely. Holy cow. I feel like I'm more aware of kind of like what I talked about with New Orleans. Just I've seen the depths of what sin can really do to people and do to me. But I've also seen like the beauty, on the other hand, of just what the Lord can do with someone's life. Because like going back to like the growth question, like I'm not like all I did was obey God the best I knew how, and He took my life and did something beautiful with it, even just in college. And I feel like I'm just much more aware of that fact of like what God can do with a pile of ash put at His feet. He can make something very beautiful out of it. And that's what He did with me.
I think that's literally the perfect way for us to end our conversation. Jared, dude, it was a long time coming, but thank you so much for coming and talking with me. Did you have a good time?
Dude, I loved it. That was so much fun. I've always wanted to be like on the show. It's really cool.
Well, dude, apparently my brain was making it very difficult, but we finally made it happen. And I'm so happy that we did. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Thank you to everyone who was in the comments. Brandon, my mom, as always. Ben, Maggie. Hi, Maggie. Thank you again for your question. But yeah, Jared, thank you so much. Y'all, this is an awesome guy. He's an awesome friend. If you haven't had a chance to meet him in person, I highly recommend it. It is 100% worth your while. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We have new episodes of Tea with Doug G every Monday night. And be sure to keep up with all things Viter Media. We have new episodes of Saying the Skeen dropping every single Wednesday. Yeah, all the fun stuff. But yeah, Jared, once again, thank you so much for coming on, man. And until next time, folks, I'm Doug Gooden. He's Jared Gilstrap. Raise your glass and we'll toast. Cheers. I'm Doug Gooden. He's Jared Gilstrap, and this has been The Tea. Y'all have a lovely evening.
I'm going to spill it on myself.